So I'm attempting today to do a review of Chapter 1 material. I'm going to do this as a one-shot deal, meaning however I screw up, I am not going to start over. I'm going to just try to do everything I can from Chapter 1, and let's see how it goes. Hopefully this is useful for you. Let's see. So the first thing I need to do is to share the screen that has the notes. So this is a review. I'm not covering all the slides again. I'm simply doing a review. Chapter 1 is all about management, the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling of human and other resources to achieve organizational goals effectively and efficiently. It is an incredibly long definition, and every word in there has meaning, as I covered in class. But the easier definition of management is that management is getting things done through people. The term organizations, an organization is any time you have a group of people working towards a common goal. So a business is an organization, our class is an organization, your family is an organization. And so one of the goals that we have in this class is for students to see that the things that we talk about in here are things that apply to you, even if it's the things we talk about are not just things for business, it applies to your home life as well. So again, the easy definition of management, getting things done through people. The term resource. A resource is anything of value. When I wrote this, I explained that this classroom is a resource, that the equipment that the university has is a resource. As an employee of the university, I am a human resource. Anything of value is a resource. Companies want to measure organizational performance. What they're doing when they do that is they are asking how do we know how well we are doing? UAU wants to know how well it is doing as a university. Every company wants to know. In some businesses, it's just easy to know how well they're doing. You measure sales. If sales are high, that's great. If sales are low, whatever. It's not good. In other organizations, it's harder. So for UAU, there are many things that the university wants to measure for success. They want to measure how well our alumni do. They want to measure how well our faculty produce research. There are many things that the university wants to measure in performance. The terms effectiveness and efficiency. The word effectiveness simply means to be doing the right things. That when you're making progress to your goal, you're being effective. The term efficiency kind of has two meanings. Not kind of, it does have two meanings. One definition of efficiency is how much of a resource is used. So I gave the example that my Nissan Sunny that I had when I came here in 2008 is very fuel efficient. The car did not use much fuel. Now I'm driving a Ford Explorer that uses a lot of fuel, so it is not fuel efficient, okay? So one definition of efficiency is using less of a resource. Another definition of efficiency is doing something quickly. Being able to get through something fast means you're being efficient. The goal, and I'm gonna skip this slide, I will come back to it. The goal in management is to be both effective and efficient. Now going back to this slide. I told the story of a family wanting to do a picnic in Abu Dhabi. It is decided that the grandfather will drive one car and the brother will drive another car. The grandfather drives slow on the Friday that they're having this picnic. The grandfather drives slow so he's being effective, but not efficient. The brother is driving fast, so he's efficient, but he gets on the wrong road. Again, the goal in management is how do we increase effectiveness and efficiency? If you increase effectiveness and efficiency, you increase productivity. And productivity is output per unit of input. It's asking how much work is getting done every hour, how much work is getting done every week. Productivity. Also, okay. Now on to the 4 functions. The 4 functions of management, the word function simply means the stuff that managers need to know how to do. So my function is, the function is I'm a teacher. This is my function. So they've studied, people who study management have come up with these 4 things that all managers should know how to be able to do, okay? The first is planning. Planning is setting goals, deciding what to do. Then there's organizing. And I'll give an example for each one, trust me, when I'm through I will. Then there's organizing. Organizing is asking what resources are we going to need to be able to achieve this goal? What time, how much time are we going to need? What money, what equipment, what human resources? Organizing is basically asking the question, how are we going to do it? Then there's leading. To be a leader means somebody is inspiring and motivating. And what you're doing when you're leading is you're trying to communicate goals so that everyone can work together. And then, last but not least, there is control. Control means to monitor and to watch what's happening and to make changes if necessary. I also talked about benchmarks. Benchmarks are where you compare your performance either to what was in the plan or you compare it to your competitors. So the example I gave in class is that if you think of it, the beginning of the class, we are here, and throughout the class, we have quizzes and midterms and other things, and then we have the end of the semester. Benchmarks are where you set a goal for what you want, and then you measure your performance. Are we achieving that goal or not? So the example I gave is that if a student wants to get a B in the class, if your goal is to get a B, and you take that first quiz and you score 7 out of 10, a 7 is a C. So that tells you that you're not achieving your goal. You're not reaching the grade you want. So this is what happens in management. You set a benchmark. This is our goal. We want to achieve this. If we don't achieve it, then we have to see what we have to do more. So maybe you decide that you're going to study extra on the weekends. You're going to maybe try reading the book. Yay! You're going to do something to try to study more. Then you take the midterm and you score 23 out of 25. That's an A. That's that you've achieved, you've gone beyond your goal of getting a B in the class. Yay. Okay? So again, benchmarks compare your performance to what you planned, or it compares to competitors. So if your plan was to get a B and you only score a 7, then you would be very sad. I'm not achieving my goal. But also you compare to your competitors and your classmates, maybe not so much in this culture as in my culture. In my culture, your classmates are the competitors. But if you score a 7 and you find out that everyone around you scored a 5 or a 4, and suddenly your 7 sounds pretty good. So anyhow, I've spent more time talking about benchmarks than I should have. back to the point of the family. In this class, our goal is for you to understand that the things we talk about are things that you can apply to your own life. So the decision for the family to go to Abu Dhabi, that is planning. Deciding that the brother drives one car and the grandfather drives another car, that is organizing. It's figuring out how you're going to actually achieve your plan. The fact that you have a younger brother or sister that will be crying, I don't want to get to Abu Dhabi, that would be boring. That is where you need to be a leader. You have to inspire, you have to motivate. That's leadership. And then finally, the control function is saying to your grandfather, Grandpa, could you drive a little bit faster because we'd like to get to Abu Dhabi? Or saying to your brother, you know, if you're playing a game in the back seat and you look up and you see the sign says Dubai, you say to your brother, you idiot, you're on the wrong road. We're going to Dubai. We're supposed to be going to Abu Dhabi. Anyhow, planning, organizing, leading, controlling. Okay, this isn't review, I'm teaching the whole class. Okay, so Mintzberg's roles. Very quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. An entrepreneur means coming up with new ideas. The term disturbance handler, a disturbance is anything that bothers you. So a disturbance handler means dealing with people who don't like each other. That's one of the things managers have to do. The term resource we already had means anything of value, and it's deciding which employees get what resource. Who gets the new computer? Who gets the office? You know, as I joke in class, the most important resource my department chair has to allocate for me is deciding who has to teach at 8 a.m. because I don't like teaching at 8 a.m. But that's resource allocation. Negotiator. Negotiating means the same as bargaining. And yeah, negotiate means to bargain, to discuss, to reach agreement, so forth. The term figurehead. Figurehead is who you think of when you think of the organization. So when you think of Apple, most people still think of Steve Jobs, even though he died in, I think, 2010, 2011. It's been a long time. Most people still don't, to this day, don't think of Tim Cook, the current CEO of Apple. They just don't, that's not, so the term figurehead is who you think of when you think of the organization. The term leader, a leader means to inspire, motivate. A liaison means to go between. When you represent a group to another group, you're being a liaison. And to our French students, they are right now laughing at me because I obviously do not pronounce it correctly. Yeah, so anyhow, it's a French word and your American teacher does not pronounce it correctly. But liaison means go between, representing your group to another group. Monitor. Monitor means to watch. We've had that, you should know that. Disseminator. As I said in class, this is a word that you could live in America for the rest of your life and never use, and so you can cross it out, let it go. And then the term spokesperson. Spokesperson means to speak on behalf of the group. So the example I gave in class was Dr. Rashid as the chair of our department introducing the Innovation Day. So he's acting as a spokesperson on behalf of our department. The term department. Department's an important word. A group of people who do similar activities. So here at UAU, we create a department that has accounting. We create a department that has marketing. We've changed the names now, but you're grouping people by what they do. And this is what many organizations will do. Management as a pyramid. management is, we show these things as a pyramid in class and in management books because it's the idea that at the bottom of the pyramid, there are a lot of people. And every level you go up, there are fewer and fewer people. Also, I discussed that the skills that are needed at the top are conceptual skills. Conceptual skills, all areas of management need these skills. Conceptual skills, human skills, and technical skills. Conceptual skills are the ability to see the big picture, to plan for the future. Human skills are dealing with people. Technical skills are job specific, being an expert in an area. So the example I gave for conceptual skills was the CEO of the largest bank in my state giving a speech saying that he couldn't do most of the functions at the bank. His point was he's not getting paid to do things like take loans and things like that. As the CEO, he's planning for the future. So that's the point, that the skill that top management needs most is conceptual. Middle management, because they are basically taking orders from above and trying to translate them to people below, the skill they need the most are human skills. And first line managers, the skill they need the most are technical skills. The example I gave was my friend Denise, who is a computer programmer, and she manages computer programmers. She has to know something about computer programming in order for her to be good at managing computer programmers. So technical skills are what she needs the most as a first line manager. Core competency. We're going to get through this. You have the ability to pause at any time and walk away and replay this video. I honestly don't know how to put videos together, so I have to do this as one thing, and we're going to get through it all. Okay, core competency. A core competency, the word core means at your center. This is your core. The word competency means what you are good at. So a core competency is what you do really well. The note should not say what you do better than competitors. It's what you do well, okay? So sorry, my note there is not great. The core competency is what gives you a competitive advantage. So let's put this all together. The things you do well are your core competencies. Usually your core competencies are the things that give you a competitive advantage. McDonald's is really good at making food fast, that tastes good, and is relatively cheap. They are really good at it. That's their core competencies. The competitive advantage is that there are other places that are cheaper, so they're not the cheapest place. There are other places that, I don't know if there's places that can do it faster, but there are other places that offer higher quality food. That's not their competitive advantage. What is their competitive advantage is the things that they do better than anyone else. McDonald's French fries, they're simply the best. The Big Mac tastes better than most other burgers out there for the same price. So they have some things and they do it all fast. So those are competitive advantages. If a company does not have a competitive advantage, if there is something that they don't do better than competitors, they will go bankrupt. You have to have something you do better than your competitors. Remember, I told the example of sitting up in the Jimmy Mall. I don't know if I should retell this whole story. Sitting up in Jimmy Mall and watching how McDonald's has so many customers and Herfy on the other side not having customers. I wondered they served the same food, but what was the competitive advantage of McDonald's over Herfy? And ultimately, there was no competitive advantage. And so in the end, Herfy did not want to compete with McDonald's and they closed. That's what you would expect in business. And that's also where I joke that what made what made McDonald's better is that they sell Coca-Cola. So here I am drinking from my Coca-Cola glass. It's tea though, it's not Coke. So I had the class come up with what are the core competencies for McDonald's. And these are the things you said. That they get food fast, that they have all these things, we brainstormed this in class. Not all of them are necessarily competitive advantages. So there are places that are as fast as McDonald's. There are people that other companies that train their employees well. There are companies that are everywhere. There's the little sandwich shops that are everywhere. So not, well, I guess that is for the UAE now, that is a competitive advantage. But the point is core competency, this is what you do well, and competitive advantage is what you do better than your competitors. Competitive advantage, what you do better than your competitors. Every company must have a competitive advantage or they will go bankrupt. The competitive advantage can change over time. Just because you have a competitive advantage today does not mean you're going to have a competitive advantage in 10 years. The example of that is that 10 years ago, well, in 2010, the biggest manufacturers of smartphones were Nokia and BlackBerry. So they were 1 and 2 in making smartphones. I don't think any of my students now have a Nokia or a BlackBerry. So today, Apple and Samsung, I think, are the biggest. I know Apple, anyhow, most all of my students have an Apple and some have a Samsung. Apple's dominance, making the most money in smartphones of any company, is something that they have today, but there's no guarantee they will have it 5 years from now. Because way back when I first started teaching here, I remember my students saying, "Oh, sir, I love my BlackBerry. I will never give it up." And then, you know, years pass, and one by one, they switch from BlackBerry to iPhones, and now nobody has BlackBerry. So again, competitive advantage. You can have it today, no guarantee for tomorrow. Restructuring, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because you'll cover it in future. When you move up in the business program, you don't need to cover it so much in management. Restructuring means to sell off, close parts of the company that were not profitable. BlackBerry tried this. They tried selling off parts of their company, and they changed their core competency, by the way. BlackBerry now focuses on delivering, I don't know exactly what they do. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. BlackBerry is profitable today, but they're not profitable doing what they did in the past. Okay. The term turnaround management. Turnaround management is asking the question, how do we get back the customers we have lost? And sometimes companies are successful doing that. In the case of BlackBerry, they were not successful. They couldn't get customers back. An example of a company that was successful was Apple in the 1990s. This may be hard for you to believe, but there was a time in the mid 1990s where Apple was this close to going bankrupt. Great story to be told there. I told it in class. It's not going to be on any tests, so this is review. We'll let it go for now. The term outsourcing. Outsourcing is important. I can guarantee you any test that I have is going to have the word outsourcing on it because you need to know this term. Outsourcing means to hire another company to do something for you. So when UAU hires Hadamat to do the cleaning in security, I don't know if Hatamatsu does security, but it doesn't matter. UAU hires outside companies to do many of the functions that is normally covered by that organization. So this is an example of outsourcing. There are two reasons, principally, why companies will outsource. Companies will outsource in order to lower costs, or they will outsource because the outside company has a certain expertise in the area. I cannot speak to why UAU has chosen to outsource. I don't know. I'm in the management pyramid. I'm not up here, so I don't know the exact reasons. But I can tell you that when it comes to cleanliness, the campus is way cleaner than it was when I came in 2008, 2009. So there is some expertise that they bring that improves us for UAU. Also, there are many negatives to outsourcing, and we'll cover that more later in the semester. But for now, all you need to know is that outsourcing is hiring another company to do something for you. Empowerment. Empowerment, the goal of every good manager is to train your employees to the point that they don't have to ask every day, what do I do, boss? What do I do? The goal for all managers should be, all good managers, the goal is to have employees that you can trust, that you know will do a good job, and that you don't have to watch them closely. So when I talked about this in class, I gave the Chinese saying that if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. That's empowerment. When you have employees that know how to fish, they don't need to be given a fish every day. That's empowerment. So there's a slide in the book about challenges for the future. I covered this at length, building and keeping a competitive advantage, maintaining ethical standards, which the term ethics is covered in a future chapter, but you should know that ethics means to do the right thing. And to do the right thing in a changing world can be difficult. Managing a diverse workforce. The term diversity. Diversity means differences. The UAE is one of the most amazingly diverse countries in the world. You have your teacher from America, you have teachers from all over the world. You have people of different skill sets. You have people who speak different languages. You know what diversity is, because if you live in the UAE, this is as diverse as any place I visited, except maybe Singapore is more diverse. I don't know. Anyhow, the UAE, you know diversity. Okay. And you know that there are, as I said in class, there are some good things about diversity and some things that are not so good. And there are some problems with diversity too. And so I think that's covered in a later chapter, so I'm not going to talk any more about it now. Global crisis management. Crisis management. The whole fact that I'm doing this video, because we are now online. We are not in the classroom. So we are trying new things to get through a crisis. UAU has Blackboard, has access to Microsoft Teams. All faculty have, so the university did everything they could to get us ready in case there was a crisis like this. Were we as ready as we should have been? No, nobody could be ready for this, for what's happened here. But the idea of global crisis management is that you try to prepare for bad things happening. And this note was made, you'll see the note at the date on the bottom, back in September of 2019, I made this note. And here we are in 2020, definitely dealing with a crisis. The term innovation, I think we're almost done. The term innovation means to have new ideas, new ways of doing things. The term innovation is a verb. So you know that an entrepreneur is somebody who starts new businesses, comes up with new ideas. What entrepreneurs are doing is called innovation. So innovation is a verb. Well, actually, I don't even know if it's a verb. Sorry, I don't teach English. Innovation means what you're doing. And I hope it's a verb. And I hope my English friends will confirm that I'm not an idiot. Okay. I don't know how long this is at this point, but we've finished everything in the chapter. I hope this is recorded everything. I hope the sound levels are good. Did I test any of that in advance? No, I did not. So I hope this was valuable. We'll see.